Hi there, welcome to Isle and Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Taurus energy, and we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because how different people might be handling this energy and the decisions they might be making could be different based on kind of the lessons they've learned in life and their emotional maturity level. We've all got our dualistic nature. We have our more hopeful, believing, loving nature. Some people can reject that, don't want to align with it. We also have our more immature, shadowy nature, which can be our pride and our ego, and our stubbornness, and our fear, and our insecurity, and lazy, and materialistic, and self-centered, and the list goes on, right? And some people have kind of worked through some of their shadowy nature to be a more tempered person, to be a more loving person. Love is supposed to be where you treat other people the way you like to be treated. And some people haven't learned that. Some people don't want to be just and fair. Taurus energy is earth sign energy, and it also kind of, the way I view it is our own Taurus energy within ourself can represent kind of our philosophy of life that we have, and it's very hard to change that philosophy of life. And earth energy is hard to change, just like it's hard to change things in the world, to get things to change. And depending, on people's life experiences, how they view themselves, how they view the world, how they view others, what they think is just and fair in a workplace or a relationship is different. So anyway, this might be something that could be something that Taurus energy particularly is dealing or struggles with in their life or right now. But we all tap into Taurus energy, so it could affect all of us. So just listen to your intuition about, from the story, how you might harness your own Taurus energy and how you might think other people do. In a more shadowy Taurus energy, it could be that you're more caught up in yourself or these things of the world. High vibe, you kind of maybe try to love and encourage people to make different decisions in their life. And, it's kind of like being a spiritual leader in the world, but, everyone has their free will. That's too many. Okay. Okay, so I view this card as the overarching reason for the reading, the Ace of Wands. And then at the end of the story, we have the King of Wands. I kind of view the Ace of Wands as represents all three of the fire sign energies. And in our own fire sign energy of self, for probably the first 30, 40 years of our life, we're pretty caught up in the world. And the King of Wands is Aries energy, which is about the self. And we can be pretty, inspired to be a little bit more about ourselves. And also it can kind of represent kind of thinking we're the boss and that we can control things. And until we've kind of went through enough life experiences to realize that, everyone else has their free will and they have the things that motivate and inspire them, and to see the truth of it and accept the truth of it, and then to, in our fire sign energy and Taurus philosophy of life, to be inspired to go on this adventure of learning more lessons, get out of our ego. I kind of interpret high vibe energy as being, learning these lessons, being enlightened to the truth, growing, healing, and maturing yourself, and you have to get out of your ego to do that, or your defensive nature, or your more immature nature. And some people aren't there yet, and other people are. So we start out with the Three of Swords, which is Libra energy, which can be represented by the scales of justice, what we think is just and fair. Do we listen to our intuition? Have we learned those lessons in life? Or do we still think we know best? And we kind of might make decisions that more aligned with being more about ourselves and these things of the world, kind of living more from our mind than our heart. Why did the Three of Swords come out? Because of the King of Cups. I view the King of Cups as Cancer energy. And again, Cancer energy is water sign energy about emotionally what we love. But the Kings can represent how we might present ourselves in the world. But in shadow, it can be people that could be operating more from their more egoic nature, like presenting themselves as like loving family people, but it's kind of more of a decision they made to present themselves that way. Some people actually are. They saw the truth. Their balance between their mind and their heart, their dualistic nature, but they're letting love be the guiding factor in their decision making. And then there's other people in the world who think, oh, I don't really got to do that. I can present myself as if that's my truth. That's kind of operating from our ego, because in high vibe, you really are who you say you are, or you try to present yourself as maybe trying to be more stable, grounded, balanced, loving than you really are. And that's what some people are doing, or they're just kind of hiding their more authentic, loving nature, thinking they can kind of cheat the justice system by just presenting themselves as a loving person and think that will work. So, and everybody's went through heartbreak before, right? Is what the Three of Swords can represent. Some people offered love to it so they could kind of balance themselves out about it and keep moving forward in their life. Other people were heartbroken and are kind of still hiding behind their ego and maybe haven't dealt with it. Then we have two cards not showing themselves, and the reason that came out is because of the Judgment card. You know, if we've been hurt or other people have hurt us, are we willing to hold ourselves and other people accountable? And some people aren't. You know, we'd have to deal with the truth. I'd have to be willing to say, you know, I could like some people in my life, I could love some people in my life, but I think they're maybe a little bit more about themselves, or a little controlling, or more about these other things of the world. Some people have less of a problem accepting, you know, we're emotionally complex human beings. Some people can love people and say, I think they're kind of bossy and controlling. I think they're kind of manipulative. I think they were kind of more about themselves. People can also say about themselves, I used to be more about myself. I used to be more immature. I might have been bossy or controlling. I got caught up in these things of the world. Other people have a harder time because the truth sets us free, but we can always stay in denial of the truth and keep deciding, no, I don't want to see the truth about other people. I don't want to see the truth about myself. And you know, if the truth sets us free, that we've learned the lesson we were meant to learn, we healed, we grew, we matured ourselves, then we do move forward in life a little differently than we had moved forward in life before. And some people think, I don't have to do that. And I still think judgment will go in my favor. But, you know, I think there's rules to this game of life. We're not the boss. And if you don't learn the lessons you're meant to learn, and you decide to hide what really ultimately drives and motivates you, or trying to present yourself as something that you're not, other people, some people in the world are going to call judgment on those people. Other people are like, hey, I do the same thing. Let's move forward together and be friends. You know? And it just kind of depends on, you know, do they really want to be with more stable, grounded, emotionally mature, loving, tempered people, or don't they? And if they do, then you have to be willing to call judgment on trying to control things, or being more about yourself, or trying to manipulate people to be in a relationship with you for these other purposes, right? But sometimes we've all been heartbroken. We all want to have a new beginning. And so then in the Judgment card, we can decide to go get in a new job, a new friendship, or a new relationship. But sometimes, you know, we can get more mismatched relationships and we don't know it. And so with these two cards not showing itself, it can talk about how with some people we could be more mismatched. Some people are more balanced, they are motivated and inspired by love. Other people try to present the fact that they are, but maybe they're really not. And then we have some mismatched relationships. So we could find out that we harness these energies differently, but we don't know it. The Seven of Swords and the Eight of Swords. The Seven of Swords is Aquarius, and the Eight of Swords is Gemini. And the difference between the Three of Swords and the Seven of Swords is the Four of Swords, which can be, I could heal, because the Four of Swords in Libra can talk about, I'm going to meditate on the truth of this past pain and heartbreak. And if I can't heal a relationship with someone, or they don't want to heal it with me, I need to accept the truth of that. And then I accept the truth in the Judgment card, and I see I can no longer heal a relationship with some people in my life. And then I'm going to take back the Four of Swords of, kind of, I wish them peace and love. I see the truth, and I'm going to move forward in my life. And then from the 7 to the 8, again, seeing that truth, adding that one sword, I am going to, in my Gemini nature, which talks, Gemini's about our free will, I'm going to choose to align with truth, accepting the truth that some things, like the Judgment card, is like the end of a phase of life or end of a trial per se. And I accept that everyone has made their decisions. If they wanted to move forward with me and work with me more cooperatively, they would. Some people didn't. I might want to get in a new relationship. And some people have healed and kind of in Aquarius energy looked at life from a higher perspective, and they still have hope and faith and belief in themselves and in their dreams and in love. Because Gemini can be about love. But some of the people that we might get in friendships or relationships or take a job with, some of those people maybe haven't healed, and they could think, I have an idea. I'm going to maybe move forward in something new. But they didn't learn the lesson they were supposed to learn from that past phase of life. But they think, if I move forward in this new job, this new friendship, or do these different things in my life, I think it'll work out okay. And again, it's kind of like trying to cheat the system. And they might be with air sign cards here, which is of the mind. They might be bright, they might be smart, they might be good with their words, they might be intelligent, might be charming. But they could live more from their mind than their heart, and it's more being strategic. That's the Judgment. Some people saw the truth. I should act from love. I'm going to work through my past pain and heartbreak. I'm going to keep believing in my dreams. I'm going to hold myself and other people accountable. And that's kind of high vibe Taurus, is walking the talk, acting with character and integrity, treating other people the way I like to be treated. But again, some people could decide, I might try to present myself as being someone who's stable and grounded and acts with character and integrity. But there might be I might be a little bit more about myself, or a little controlling, or a little bossy, or more caught up in wanting to be in a relationship or get a new job, more for these reasons of the world than I like that job or I like that person. It's good for my ego and my image. And we all have the free will to make whatever decisions we want to make. I just think that the people who decide to keep operating more being motivated by themselves or the world, I think, Judgment can be that there is consequences for all of the different actions that we take in our life. And some people think maybe because in their Taurus energy and their fire sign energy, maybe they're creative, maybe they're inspired, maybe they're charming, maybe they're attractive, maybe they have money or status or power or social clout, male or female. And they could think, well, I don't have to see the truth. Maybe because I have these certain ways about me that I think judgment will go in my favor regardless. And I can use those things to try to get people to be in a relationship with me. Well, then we come to this part of the story. And we have the Five of Cups, the Three of Cups, and the Page of Swords. And the reason that came out is because of the Ace of Wands. If we're not being more authentic and actually getting into situations, just like we can be inspired by these things of the world, and we could go get in a career field that we don't really like, but it makes logical, practical sense. We'll look like a shining star. We'll look victorious and successful. But then in the Five of Cups, we can be sad because we're kind of working in a career field that we really don't love. But when we got into it, we thought because it would have the power or the status or the money, that we thought that would outweigh the fact that maybe it really wasn't a career field that was aligned with our truth, right? Well, just like people can get in careers that really kind of aren't aligned with their truth, people can get in relationships with people for the wrong reasons. And I think, the Five of Cups can be that you kind of feel sad because people aren't working together with you from love, that they are kind of working together with you kind of using their emotions more manipulatively. Because if you're not authentically motivated and inspired by love, you're going to try to move forward in a relationship kind of being the Seven of Swords, can talk about being deceptive and manipulative. And then eventually the other people that they get in a relationship with, who maybe are motivated and inspired by love, can kind of feel like it's a more superficial and shallow relationship. And then from the Five of Cups down to the Three of Cups, it's kind of where people are in those situations, whether it's a workplace where you feel like someone doesn't seem to really be motivated and inspired to work there, or being in a relationship where you feel someone isn't in it for the right reasons, or maybe more out of their fear or their insecurity, or just because they were sad or something. The people that then could be in a relationship with them could kind of see the truth of it. But Scorpio in the Five of Cups talks about that we are these emotionally complex human beings, and we can love those people. And then it's hard to maybe speak our truth and detach from some of those people to kind of more stand up for ourselves. You seem to be more motivated and inspired by these things, or I think you haven't healed from some issues from your past, and that maybe is what makes you kind of use your emotions or your sexuality or your words or your looks or your social clout or your status in a way to kind of emotionally manipulate people. And I think eventually the other high vibe people in their life kind of see the truth of it, because they maybe are more connected with their more emotionally intuitive nature. And, when we're kind of more somehow in our more immature egoic nature, we've got some lessons to learn. That's a judgment card. We're not seeing the truth. We want to go do what we want to go do, and it kind of clouds our judgment. And we might not realize why we're doing what we're doing, And it can take time. You have to meditate, kind of. This King of Cups is like sitting there with their eyes closed, and then we have light coming out from like the heart chakra area, where you meditate on that past pain and heartbreak and disappointments in life and you look at life from a higher perspective, and realize that all the people we've dealt with in our life, ever since in the Page of Swords, ever since we were children, we've been dealing with all these other emotionally complex human beings who've had their issues and their fear and their more immature nature and their more bossy, controlling nature and living more from their mind than their heart. And they've all been at these different stages of kind of emotional maturity. And that's where High Vibe Aquarius is, where you just kind of put it in perspective that nobody's perfect. Everybody's kind of on this journey of learning these lessons. Some people learn some of them better than others. Some of them are still kind of living more from their mind than their heart, still being more about themselves, still more about their ego or their image or self-indulgent nature, more about manipulative. And, everybody has their idea of what they think is just and fair. And because some high vibe people have learned the truth that not everyone is who they say they are, not everyone is kind of more balanced. They're kind of could be tipped out of balance and they could want more imbalanced relationships, or they want to be in more the Page of Swords being like a child card. Some people like more codependent relationships. I want to be like the parent and you be like the child. I'm like the employer and you're like the employee. And it's like, again, love is supposed to be just and fair. You're supposed to treat other people the way you like to be treated. And again, some people don't like to do that. Maybe because they've been hurt before. And so they came up with this idea, because I might be fearful of love and because I might have these ways about me, I maybe need to try to get in a relationship with someone who I think is sad and heartbroken, that maybe has their own fears and insecurities, and then maybe I can manipulate them and get them to move forward with me in a new relationship or work here and a job. And maybe they're kind of maybe naive and don't know about people like me in the world. And until they work through their own issues, I'll kind of indulge myself. And if they're loving, maybe I can manipulate their loving nature. And because they love me, maybe I can use that to manipulate them and make it more about me. Or to stay in the relationship and tempt them more with these things of the world that we want and get them to rationalize that this makes, if they want justice in the world, they should stay in this job or this relationship. And some people have already been in those things and they had to go through that mental confusion that I could love this job or I could love these people, but I do feel they kind of maybe have these immature or shadowy or manipulative ways of being, or they're just more not very connected with themselves emotionally. So it's not a very deep, meaningful relationship. And it might seem to have a lot of things in the world that I think I would like and I could love them, but I can't stay in a relationship where if I'm more motivated and inspired by truth and love and justice and fairness, and the other person's more motivated and inspired to live more from their mind than their heart and kind of hide behind their ego nature, and I'm in a relationship with their ego, their cardboard cutout person, and their more authentic nature just looks out through the eyeballs but never comes out to play in the world, but I'm being authentic. I want to be in relationships with other people that were inspired to do that work within themselves to have a more deep, meaningful relationship. If I keep moving forward with this, I feel like I'm going to miss an opportunity in love. I'm going to be in a relationship where I feel like I'm being manipulated more by my own fears and insecurities and ego and codependency and my want for these things of the world than me being bold and brave enough to live my truth and speak my truth and not settle for the illusion. I want the real deal. And so some people could be going through that right now. Some people are in the midst of getting in relationships, being in relationships, and with some of the people it can be more mismatched. For the high vibe people, what some people don't know about them with these cards not showing themselves We can all tend to think that other people are kind of motivated and inspired by the same things we are because that's our truth. We think it's just and fair, and we think that like makes sense. So then we think other people think like that. But in a world of duality, for every person that's more aligned with their hopeful, believing, loving nature, there's equally probably as many people on the opposite side that can look like you, kind of act like you, but they're really more motivated and inspired to by something other than having hope and faith and belief and love or loving themselves, and they could live more from their mind than their heart. So high vibe people are listening to their intuition about the different people they meet. They're going out in the world being inspired by truth and love, to work together with people in a just and fair way. If they're kind of creative, inspired, intuitive nature, by the way some people choose to act or respond or behave, their intuition tells them these people are a little bit more about themselves, a little bit more about these things of the world, or kind of immature or hurtful or unkind or something. I'm not going to get up in my ego about it. I'm going to see the truth, and I'm going to then, you know, accept that truth. And then I'm going to keep focused on truth and love. I'm not staying in denial when people act certain ways. Deal with the truth, no longer staying in denial about the truth about people. They have their free will. Can I be sad that some of those people that you try to work with cooperatively in a just and fair way don't respond in kind? Yeah, but we're not the boss. They have their things that motivate them. We don't have to take it personally. And out of love for ourselves, we continue on our way to invest more of our time, energy, and effort into people in the world who do work with us more cooperatively, inspired by truth and love. And then some of the people who didn't respond in truth and love, maybe because they're used to trying to manipulate or control people or be hurtful or unkind to make people sad so that those people will keep trying to work with them because, some people are shadowy, and high vibe people can put a lot of work and effort to try to make a relationship successful. That's like high vibe Taurus. You put in work and effort to make things just and fair and stable and grounded and victorious and successful. And some shadowy people count on that. Well, if I'm kind of rude or bossy or dismissive or acting this way or acting that way, I bet they'll be sad. And because they're loving people, they'll be inspired to try to figure out why I acted that way. And they'll put in this work and effort to try to get me to work together with them. And then if I know there's someone who's willing to do that, kind of like, instead of getting in your ego about it, just accepting the truth, I'm being kind of deceptive, I'm being kind of rude, I'm being kind of bossy, I'm being kind of egotistical. Oh, you don't want to see that truth about me? You think like maybe you can change me because the fives talk about change? Perfect. Yeah, I'll move forward. You seem to be up in your head about calling judgment on me. Perfect. You're sad that when I act like this, you put in work and effort to try to figure out why I do that, maybe to get me to like you. Perfect. Yeah, I'll work together with you in a relationship. You have some lessons to learn about people like me. And some other people have already been in relationships with people like that, and they're no longer up in their head about it, and they're no longer getting their ego about it. They present how they want to present in the world, being inspired by justice, fairness, truth, and love. They let other people have their free will for them to respond whatever way they want to. And if those people seem to act in a way that's shadowy, they take note of it. Thank you for showing me the truth of who you are, and now I'm going to move on. And that's too bad. I would have liked to work with you, but I see the truth, so I wish you peace, and I'm going to keep moving on. And then some of those people are like, shit, maybe I shouldn't have tried to manipulate that person. Because maybe I would have liked to have, they are a just and fair and inspiring and loving person, but I kept trying these tactics that I do And now that person, letting go of the Two of Cups between the Five of Cups and the Three of Cups, they don't really, will they be pleasant to me? The pages can talk about small gestures with people. Like we can all know people at work, in our community, in our family, in a social group that, yeah, I don't really spend a lot of time with them. Can I go out in the world and I treat other people the way I like to be treated? But do I want to spend more time or whatever with you? More than just like a social acquaintance? No. And some people keep doing this, you know? And for the people who are wearing a false mask, they keep not wanting to see the truth and they maybe can't even understand it. Because they could think, doesn't everybody act like this? Isn't everybody kind of more like putting on a show and acting like this and talking to these people and that people and reacting this way and reacting that way? Aren't they all doing it for these purposes? Some people really are who they say they are. But they could be so entrenched in their defensive nature or operating more from their ego and their mind, they think everybody is kind of not being authentic because they maybe haven't been really authentic hardly since they were a child. Kind of wearing a false mask all their life. And maybe they grew up with people who are like that too. And they cannot, maybe not really understand it. And, just like anybody who could have, they've got to go on their own journey in life to kind of decide if that's how they want to keep living their life. And, if they can find other people who, say you're immature, you're always going to find more immature people. Say you're bossy and controlling. It might be harder to find another bossy, controlling person who wants to be in a relationship with you. But, we can find people that are more motivated and inspired to live more from their mind than their heart, make their things more about these things of the world that they want to indulge in or make their life about. And if they're in relationships with people who are like that, they could both be people who like to live more from their mind than their heart. That makes them feel more stable and balanced within themselves. We can't be more authentically ourselves in a way until we've kind of learned these lessons. It's like getting pushed out on the stage of your life. And if you're not ready to do that, you are going to operate more from your defensive egoic nature. And if they're in relationships with people who also might have some regrets of their past that they might not want to deal with, and they're more manipulated by their defensive nature, their egoic nature, these things of the world, then they're on the same page. And they'll probably, we tend to like to hang out with people who, to a degree, think and view the world and like to do the same things and view life the same way to a degree that we do, right? So people might decide that if they have someone in their life who they think is more on the same page as them, those are the people that they're going to more invest in or try to get in more of a relationship with. So let's go see what's going to happen. For people who harness a more high vibrational Taurus energy, who are inspired to heal from past pain and heartbreak and indulging their more shadowy, immature, being about themselves nature, what's coming up for them that they don't see coming? They are going on investing in the people in their life who work together with them in that way, but I think they're kind of have learned the lesson with the Judgment card that they were meant to learn from a previous phase of life that they were in. Just like when we went from age 15 to age 18 to age 21, we had to work through our fears and insecurities of believing in ourselves to go to the next phase of life, and then we don't have an interest in going back to that old phase of life. Those people are really moving forward. They have changed. They're not the same person that they were before. Oh, shoot. We'll assume I don't know if they were face up or face down, but it saves time if we say they were face up. We have the Ace of Swords, the Four of Cups, the Two of Cups, the Two of Swords, and the Three of Wands. And the reason these came out is because of the Two of Wands. So, because high vibe people have a dream, they were willing to kind of meditate on the truth and work through their mental conflict and their fears and their insecurities and kind of see the truth about, again, where they needed to heal and grow and mature themselves, where other people might need to heal and grow and mature themselves, and seeing if they do, seeing if they don't. And they were willing to deal with the truth. And the truth is, in the Four of Cups, it can talk about missing an opportunity in love. To see the truth, we didn't really miss an opportunity in love if some of the people we were in relationships with, that their truth is they are kind of more about these other things, and the Four of Cups can talk about people who reject love or haven't learned to love themselves, so they might make their life more about things they indulge in or other things that they think will make them happy. And they just might not think that love is that important. And so we realize I didn't miss an opportunity in love if the people I was dealing with don't really do love, or reject my love, or don't offer me love. And so the Four of Cups can be that I'm going to take that cup of love that God is offering all of us to love and believe in ourselves and align with our more loving nature, and to listen to our intuition and believe in our dreams and take action more in truth and love and listening to our intuition than taking action more out of fear and insecurity and pride and ego and lust and greed and codependency. If we don't want to be in relationships based on those reasons, we have to quit aligning with that way of being within ourselves. And we realize the truth, I need to love myself. In my Two of Cups nature of Cancer energy, of what I love, I can make it more about me and indulging myself and rejecting love. Or I can take that cup of love to listen to my intuition and be inspired to believe in myself and believe in my dreams. And some high vibe people aren't willing to give up their dreams just because of things that might have happened in their life. I offer peace and love to it, to heal, to see the truth, accept the truth. The only person I can change is me. If other people don't want to change, have no interest in change, have their own fears or insecurities or things they're motivated and inspired by, I see the truth of it. And I see that from the 5 down to the 3, in our Two of Cups of Cancer energy, we harness that differently. And so we're kind of building our life from a different foundation. And a house divided can't stand. And I want a solid foundation. And that has to be built on love. And they might think, no, no, no. If we make it about me or these other things, that's the foundation I build my life on. And they see the truth of it. We're inspired by a different truth. So they are going to take action to believe in themselves, believe in their dreams, let love and intuition be the guiding factor in their life. And I think when you do that, other people see that that is what drives and motivates you by these actions that you're taking in your life. And if there's people being hurtful or unkind or deceptive or manipulative, you're not staying in denial of the truth of that. And you're not staying stuck, and you're moving forward, loving and believing in yourself. And other people could see that, and other people could want to move forward with you in that way. And some of the people that are currently in your life want to move forward with you in that way. What's coming up for some people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Taurus energy? that they might not see coming. So kind of in our Taurus philosophy of life, we could have had a dream and we viewed life a certain way and we thought our dream was going to come into reality a certain way and it was going to look a certain way and act a certain way, and with other people we thought they were maybe going to act a certain way. But we all, have all these different things that motivate and inspire us and our idea of the dream life, and if we're more defensive or more open or more shallow or want more deep, meaningful relationships, if we're more motivated by ego and image or not. And we just see the truth of it. And my dreams can only come into reality with people who are kind of have the same truth as me, and the Page of Swords can represent all three of the air signs, which is Libra and Gemini and Aquarius, my free will, what I think is just and fair, and what my dream is. And in my fire signs and my air signs and in my Taurus energy, I'm more motivated and inspired by truth and love, and some other people, that's not the driving factor in their life yet. Again, it can be more about themselves or fear or defensiveness or the world. So what's coming up for people who might harness a more shadowy Taurus energy? We have two cards not showing themselves, and the reason it came out is because of the Strength card, which is Leo energy, which can talk about our, are we more aligned with our ego nature, or have we tempered our ego nature? Again, of fear, insecurity, pride, ego, things like that. And because some people might want to keep staying in denial of the truth, or don't want to be held accountable for their actions. And some of those people think, though I might be sad about some of those things that happened or things I've done or not willing to hold other people accountable, but it's still whatever other people have done to them, it affects them. But they think, no, I don't have to deal with it. They carry that around with them, and it does affect how they interact with the next group of people they get in a relationship with. And they might try to emotionally manipulate the truth. And in their air sign energy, their fire sign energy, they're more inspired to maybe maintain a certain image, because Taurus energy, again, can be about wanting people to perceive you a certain way. So some people, even if they made a mistake, they don't want to admit that they were a fallible human being who had lessons to learn in life and temper their ego about it. And they might have known other people in their life that had some shadowy ways of being, but because they could have love for those people, they're still not dealing with the truth of it. And because of it, it still affects them as they move forward, because they don't want to, for one, in Taurus energy, being earth sign energy, in order to work through those issues, you have to work through all these different thoughts that you have and conflicting thoughts that you can have, and why do I think the way I think, and why do those people maybe think the way they think, and it takes work and effort. And that's when some people are like, screw it, I'm just gonna move on, I'm sure it'll all work out okay. But we can't keep growing to our full potential if we're not willing to deal with the truth. So we will probably be drawn and attracted to getting in relationships with people who might repeat some of those same patterns in order to try to get us to deal with the truth. So if they keep operating more from their worldly egoic nature, the people in their life that harness more high vibrational Leo energy within themselves, they've been trying to work with them, but eventually they see that, the other people aren't willing to work through those issues. And they're going to have some people who are going to leave their life because those people harness this energy in a high vibe way, and the more worldly, shadowy people try to hide from the world, that they harness it in a more shadowy way. The Three of Pentacles and the Emperor, you know, other people who've tempered their ego, they want to work together with people. They offer, love and encouragement to people, try to inspire other people. They'd like to work together with them, but they can't make the other people. The Three of Pentacles is Capricorn energy, and shadowy Capricorn is represented by the devil. We can't make people do this work within themselves to deal with the truth of things that manipulate them. And eventually people see the truth of it. I can offer you love and encouragement. I can want to work together with you cooperatively. But if you reject working with me cooperatively, again, the Emperor and the King of Wands and the Two of Wands and the Three of Wands, you harness your Aries energy different. High vibe Aries are people, which anyone can harness, are people who have learned these lessons in life. And when they make decisions in their life and their decisions are going to affect other people, they take those people into consideration. And some people don't want to do that. Either out of fear that they'll be manipulated, that be deceived, don't trust other people. Well, until they work through that to realize just because other people have been hurtful or unkind or unjust or whatever, doesn't mean everybody is, but you have to be willing to work through those issues from your past so your judgment isn't clouded. So you have maybe in the Page of Swords, take the lessons that you've learned, but still kind of have that hopeful, believing spirit and listen to your more loving, creative, inspired nature to guide you versus your fear and your defensiveness, and or quit being more about yourself or quit being bossy and grow up. But in either case, some of the shadowy people could be more inspired again by the world, because Capricorn energy can represent the world, status, ego, image, power, whatever. And that can be still what more manipulates them. And because of that, they're going to have some high vibe people in their life that are going to wish them peace and move on. And just like we could have people, some of the people in our life that we might know that we could think are a little more immature or prideful or egotistical or whatever, they in turn could know people in their life that they think are more immature, prideful, egotistical. And everybody can kind of look at some of the people in their life like, yep, no, I'm not going to invest more time, energy, and effort into them. But the shadowy people, again, either live more from their mind than their heart, or don't really want to be more authentic. So in a way, it's kind of being like they're being deceptive and manipulative. I want to kind of protect myself from being hurt or being more about me or these things of the world. But sometimes they can want to be in relationships with people who are more loving and authentic, and they can get in relationships with people like that. But eventually, over time, the high vibe people in their life are like, I don't think you're being authentic. That's high vibe Leo, where you're authentically who you say you are. I could feel like you're in the relationship, more shadowy energy can be to indulge yourself in the relationship in whatever way it kind of benefits them. If it's a job, I'm here for the paycheck, but I don't really like the job, and I don't really put in work and effort, but I'm hoping because of these other reasons, you won't fire me. And same way in a relationship or a friendship. Well, I know I don't really work with you cooperatively, and I might do these hurtful or whatever things, but I'm hoping because you don't want to go look for a different friend or a different relationship, that you'll kind of keep indulging me in it. And so long as it works for me in some regard, I'll keep staying in it. And some other people are like, no, I'm not going to keep staying in the relationship. If I eventually get to figure out that's the truth of it, no, I don't want to be in it. And what they don't see coming is eventually, if they keep rejecting the more loving people in their life, because that requires them to maybe hold themselves accountable, work through some of their issues of the past, be more authentic. The people they're going to end up with in their life are people who are more like them. And that would be a just and fair relationship. It just might be where it's a group of people more where because of their past pain and heartbreak, or because they're defensive, or they are more about these things of the world, they get in relationships and it is more not a very deep, meaningful relationship, but by worldly standards, if it looks like they look victorious and successful, they might stay in it. But it might be like jobs, friendships, and careers that they really either don't want to be in or only be in it if the other people in their life let them be more bossy and controlling. And some people have bossy and controlling people in their life, but they're unwilling to kind of call judgment on those people and be more independent of them. And because they could be more codependent on them, whether they're a family member or a family or a friend group, but it can even be the world at large. They're not willing to become more independent of this, at least in their mind, of thinking of how they have to live their life. And that can be, I can't be more authentically myself. I can't pursue what I would really like to do or what I would love because maybe I'm afraid of judgment. What would people say? And so then they kind of have to temper their more authentic nature. They could feel, even though it could have them up in a mental prison and have them sad, but because they let all these things or the world or their ego or their fear or whatever manipulate them, they're more inspired to align with the people and ways of being within themselves that are more aligned with their worldly or defensive or egoic or immature or something nature than their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. And other people have been there and done that, and they're like, I can't do that. At least not anymore. And I do think it's when our fire sign aspect of self gets on board, because our heart could want to do things differently. In our mind, we could want to do things differently. In our 3D nature, we could want to do things differently. But until kind of like our fire sign aspect of self says, okay, this isn't working, we do need to do things differently, until our fire sign nature kind of gets on board to face our fears and be more bold and brave and confident, we're going to keep repeating an old pattern. And some people are going to repeat an old pattern and they might think it's dandy and wonderful because, it's like when we were young, we could have other people in our life like, why don't you grow up and why are you hanging out with those people or why are you doing those things? And we're like, I am having a ball. This is the stage of life I'm at. Maybe when I'm your age, I'll live life differently. It's kind of like we can have people that are the same age as us, but they could be like at a stage of life in a way that we could have went through 10 years ago or 20 years ago. You know, some people could have grown up with people that really were thinking they were doing a good job by trying to temper people, but if people didn't really get to go live their life and experience a little bit more and learn some life lessons, it might come out later in their life feeling like, I never got to go do those things. And I want to go do those things. And so then they want to go indulge themselves in these things of the world. And partly it can be because I guess they could have fear that they're going to miss out, that they're not going to maybe experience some of these things that they wanted to go experience. And Other people did learn some more lessons in life, and they lived that stage. They went through that stage. They've moved on from it. And, that's why kind of like everybody's got to just, we can want to protect the people in our life and our children, but we've also got to let them learn some lessons and make some mistakes and realize, oh, that didn't work out the way I thought, because they still might have some illusions about, oh, I'm sure that would be fun. But everybody in their life could have told them, no, you shouldn't do that. We've already been there. We've already done that. And we don't want you to get hurt. So we're going to try to protect you more. And, offer people love and encouragement to listen to their intuition, that not everything's going to work out the way they want, but they can pick themselves back up. It is not the end of the world for you to be a fallible human being who made a mistake. But some people are so worried about their ego and their image that they're just too controlling of people or their children as they're growing up. And those people didn't really kind of have those life experiences. Anyway, there we go, Taurus. I'm going to leave it there. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.